What is up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. It is draft season now. It is time for my first mock draft of the year. I'm going to be coming up with three of these, starting out with 1.0. So let's dive right into it. I'm on Pro Football Network's mock draft. Apparently, PFF is now charging a premium something for like trades and more rounds and stuff, which is just ridiculous. I mean, I don't know what they're thinking. They're not going to be able to compete with a website like this that you can do anything you want. So, yeah, I mean, that's just what I think. But yeah, we're going to be moving on to this one. Last year, I did it on PFF. I think it's a little bit better website in general to do this. But now that they did that premium thing, I'm definitely not going with that. So let's dive into the mock draft, though, as the Carolina Panthers are on the clock after trading with the Bears. And it's either between CJ Stroud and Bryce Young. We all know this, the two QBs, or they could potentially trade down. I'm not sure. But yeah, I do think that you got to go with Bryce Young here. I think he's just slightly the better prospect than CJ Stroud. I think he has a better upside. CJ Stroud, really freaking good QB, but I think that Bryce Young's just a little bit better. And then for the next pick, you got to go with CJ Stroud if you're the Texans. It's either Bryce Young or CJ Stroud. I think the Texans are going to be kicking themselves in the foot that they lost the first pick and weren't able to get Bryce Young. But it's fine for the Texans. They'll be fine. CJ Stroud, I think, is going to be a really good quarterback at the next level. And yeah, roll with CJ. All right, let's move to number 3 here for the Arizona Cardinals. And the Cardinals may want to trade down with this pick. That's an option. But I think that you need a leader on this defense here. You know, this defense has sucked for a lot of years in a row. You need to build this up. And I think that the perfect fit for them is Will Anderson Jr. Really good high character guy. He's going to come in there, work his butt off. Arguably the best prospect in this draft overall over Bryce Young and CJ Stroud. Heck of a player, heck of a dude in general as a person. You love him. You love to see it for Arizona. Getting him it's just too good to pass up, I think, for Arizona. And then number 4 for the Indianapolis Colts. So a lot of people saying Anthony Richardson with this pick. I'm honestly not comfortable with picking Anthony Richardson if I'm the Colts. I think that the Colts are going to start this, whoever they draft, day one. They've got to get a day one starter in there. And I'm not comfortable with Anthony Richardson day one. I think he's going to be better off if he can develop for a year or two behind a QB. And that's why I'm going to go with Will Levis. Will Levis, I think, can come in. He can be that guy day one. I think he's just been getting too much hate recently. I think he deserves some more respect. And yeah, I think he's a good fit with Indy. A lot of Colts fans probably wouldn't be too happy with that pick, but Will Levis got too much hate for the Kentucky when he was in Kentucky. I think he's a very good QB, and he's going to be a really good player at the next level. And then we got Seattle, and I was debating between picking Tyree Wilson with this pick. But I think the Seahawks need more inside defensive line, and I think that they're going to go with Jalen Carter with this pick. Might be the best player in this whole draft. I think he's the best overall player besides all the off the field stuff. With that, he's not as good as Will Anderson, I think. But Jalen Carter, I mean, my oh my, what a beast. And the Seahawks, they've been known in the past to take chances on these types of prospects. The ones that maybe have a poor history, poor background, and the off the field stuff. And Seattle, I think, is comfortable taking in Pete Carroll, and this coaching staff, I think, is going to be just fine with Jalen Carter. I'm not too concerned with the off the field stuff. I think he'll be just fine, but we'll see as the Seahawks draft him at number 5. Then number 6, the Lions. And this is where I'm going to go with Anthony Richardson for Detroit. I feel like he's just the perfect fit. A lot of people may say Seattle should take him. Seattle's defense needs a lot of work. I don't think it's worth it. And I don't think they're even in a position to draft a QB for the future right now. Signing Geno Smith to that 3-year deal. I think that they're going to roll with Geno right now and try and build up that defense. You could say the same thing about the Lions, but, The Seahawks offensive line, I'm a Seahawks fan. The O-line still needs some work. The Lions O-line is one of the best in the NFL. If they could keep that forward, maybe start Goff for a year and keep Richardson behind him, that's just going to be a phenomenal unit there with Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson could be the next best, like, top 5 QB in the NFL. He has a very low floor, but a high ceiling. And it's a risky prospect. I don't think the Seahawks are comfortable taking him at 5. I think that the Lions, with that offense is very good. I think that they would want to take the risk there. Because, I mean, obviously Jared Goff had an excellent season, but I don't think that that's the Lions, you know, future right there. All right, so then let's move on to number 7. We're going to have the Las Vegas Raiders. And the Raiders, no QBs remaining here for Las Vegas. I think that they're just going to roll with Derek Carr. And I think that a good fit here for Las Vegas would be Devin Witherspoon. According to PFN, he's 13th. I think he's better than Christian Gonzalez, in my opinion. Really good cornerback out of Illinois. He played excellent this season. Really good prospect. And we all know the Raiders freaking need a cornerback help. They need defensive help in general. This is a rebuild year for them. And start out with one of the most important positions in the NFL at cornerback, getting the best cornerback in the NFL. Oops, did not mean to do that. But moving on here, we have number 8. And that is going to be the Atlanta Falcons. And this one's pretty obvious for me. Tyree Wilson's still on the board. You got to go with Tyree Wilson if you're Atlanta. I mean, they need an edge. They need an edge bad here. This front 7 is just straight up bad for Atlanta. It's still a big rebuild in there. Another one of those huge, important position needs for Atlanta in the edge position. Tyree Wilson, a freak of nature. He could be a very freaking good pass rusher at the next level, and I think that it's a very good pick for Atlanta there at number 8. And then moving on to number 9 here for the Chicago Bears. And this is where the Bears, an interesting pick here for them. You could go a few different directions. Honestly, though, I still think that they need another offensive tackle for this unit. And I think that getting Paris Johnson Jr. is the right fit here. PFN doing Paris Johnson Jr. justice, make him the 7th overall prospect. I agree with that. PFF, I think, had him like somewhere like 15 or something. Like he is not that low. He is definitely a top prospect, the best offensive tackle in my opinion. It's close though between him and Peter Skronsky though. But yeah, I mean, I think that the Bears gonna need to still work on that O-line. It's still, it had improvement last year, but it still wasn't the best. And they're going to need to get another offensive tackle. Didn't really address that position in free agency. And I think that they could get a solid, a really good pick there for the Bears at number 9. And then let's move on to number 10 here with the Philadelphia Eagles. And this is where I think you got to go with Christian Gonzalez. The past 3 picks have gone top overall, but it's just how it's kind of played out for me. I mean, the Eagles, losing out on – I don't even remember who, but I can't even think right now. One of their star cornerbacks, this free agency, they're going to need to build back that unit up. And Christian Gonzalez, best player available potentially. He is a freaking good cornerback out of Oregon, had an excellent year. And, the Eagles continue to have one of those dominant secondaries or defensive backs this season, at least at cornerback. Still need to address the safety room, but that is the Eagles pick. Let's scroll down a bit here to see all the teams upcoming. Next up, we got the Tennessee Titans here. And the Titans with this pick, I think that the Titans, I could see them going with Peter Skronsky here, but I'm not going to go with him. If I'm the Titans, I'm going with Quentin Johnston. A little bit lower on this board. Wow, where is he? 24. Now, that's just a little bit disrespectful. I think he's definitely a better prospect than Jackson Smith and the Jigba. And we all know that the Titans had trouble with the receiver room this season. They do have Treylon Burks. I think he's going to have a good year this season, going to have a breakout season. But get another one. You need more than one really good receiver, and Quentin Johnston, really good year at TCU, obviously helped them get to the national championship game, and I think that he's going to be a great fit for the Titans. And then let's move on to number 12 here with the Houston Texans. And this is where we're going to have Lucas Van Ness come off the board. Miles Murphy, I'm just not a big fan of him. I'm going to be straight up honest. Lucas Van Ness has some work to do to develop, but with DeMeco Ryans and the Texans, now that he's the head coach, obviously they're going to want to build on the front seven there. You got your QB in CJ Stroud. Get that excellent edge player on the defense. Build on the front seven. Lucas Van Ness, I wouldn't trust anyone else more than I do DeMeco Ryans to develop him. And yeah, that's really my take on that. I think he's going to be an excellent player for the Texans. Obviously he has a little bit of a lower floor, but I do think he'll be I think with DeMeco Ryans, he will develop. All right, so this is where we have the Jets, and this is where I think the Aaron Rodgers trade comes in. So let's see how this trading all works here in this. So we go to the NFC, we go to the Packers. Wait. Okay, there you go. Not sure what's going on. Okay. Okay, so it's not letting me pick Aaron Rodgers, but just say we have Aaron Rodgers in this trade. The Packers are going to get the 13th pick over, obviously. And how do I submit this? I think that they would get a 4th-round pick there, the 143rd pick, and Corey Davis, a receiver there. That's what I think this trade would come down to. I don't honestly know how to submit this, guys. Maybe I exit out of that. How do I submit this here? It's not letting me scroll down or anything. Okay, we don't have enough time for this. Just say, okay, this is the trade. Aaron Rodgers for the 13th pick, a 143rd pick, and Corey Davis. I think that's fair. For obviously, and maybe even throw in like a 4th-round pick next year if that's not enough for the Packers. But obviously, Aaron Rodgers isn't going to be there next season. I think that this probably would be more fair to go with the 112th pick. Right there. So yeah, let's just say that's the trade right there. So I don't know why it's not letting me submit this, but we're just going to say, I guess I have to click on something here. Oh, okay. So we'll just say that the Jets get a 7th-round pick as well. There you go. Corey Davis, Aaron Rodgers, confirm. Oh, the trade was declined. Okay, so can I force the trade? Because obviously this is my draft, whereas the Packers. Let's just try and get this done. I guess if I... Okay, there you go. It's been accepted. Okay, Green Bay now. It's Green Bay's time. And this is where I think that the Packers, get this pick. Need some edge help for the Green Bay Packers. And we all know how much the Packers love drafting Georgia defenders. And that's why I'm going to go with Nolan Smith. Let me search him up. I'm not sure how far they have him down. There you go. Why isn't it letting me? Maybe click resume trade and resume draft. Yeah, okay, this is being confusing. But anyway, Nolan Smith is the pick here for the Packers. Like I said, the Packers love drafting these Georgia defenders here. And Nolan Smith, really freaking good player from Georgia. He is a little bit undersized, but I do think he's going to be, he has the talent to overcome that undersize. And I think he's a good fit for Green Bay. And then we got the Patriots, and believe it or not, I'm going to go with Deonte Banks for New England. I feel like he's just the perfect fit in Bill Belichick's system there. He's going to fit right in. He's a very man-to-man corner type. Belichick, obviously, he will run those zones as well. I think that Belichick will be able to teach him that. Banks, freaking a freak of nature. Let's be honest, for Maryland, he has been a big riser in this year's draft, and I'm a big believer in him. So I'm going to go with him, Deontay Banks, out of Maryland, with the 14th pick to New England. And then let's go to the 15th pick, the Packers, right back up in the clock. And I think that the Packers go with Dalton Kincaid, tight end out of Utah. The best tight end in this draft, in my opinion. And Packers need a tight end there. Obviously, they just lost there. And who better to go with Dalton Kincaid, who's a first-round prospect here. And that's why I'm going to go with the Packers. So let's scroll down a bit here. Going to number 16 now for the Commanders. And usually in my drafts that I've done in the past with the Commanders, this has just been a weird pick for them. I'm like, dude, there's not a lot of players here that they should draft. But something just lines up perfectly for Washington. And that's Peter Skronsky. I mean, it couldn't have been better. The Commanders need a guard. Skronsky is an offensive tackle right now, but he can definitely slide into guard. And when he's fully developed, he can get back to tackle. That's what I think the Commanders' thing is going to be here. Work on that O-line a bit more. I mean, this is a really good offense. Team in general, besides the quarterback position. Continue to build it until eventually you can finally get your QB of the future. And that's what I'm going to go with Washington. Going to number 17 here, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and we're going to go with Joey Porter Jr. for Pittsburgh. And there he is right down there. Perfect fit, a cornerback at a Penn State, in-state player. I mean, the Steelers fans, if you're a Penn State fan, you're going to love this pick. If you're a Penn State fan and a Steelers fan, that is, you're going to love this pick. He's going to fit in perfectly with the Steelers there, and you couldn't have drawn it any better for Mike Tomlin's unit. So that is where Joey Porter Jr. goes in. And then number 18, we have the Lions back up on the clock, and this is where I'm going to go with Brian Bursay out of Clemson, defensive tackle. Had a little bit of a rough year, but he had a very good year a couple years ago, and I think he's going to be able to, bounce back. The Lions need some interior defensive line help, and I think that, they could go cornerback, but Joey Porter Jr. just went off the board, so I don't think you go with like Cam Smith. I think that Brian Bursay is a good fit, so I'm going to go with him. And then moving on to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Bucs, I think, go with Kalijah Kancey here with this pick, wherever he is. Really far down on PFN's mock draft, but I do think that he is the right prospect for Tampa Bay. I mean, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers getting a little bit up there in age in that interior defensive line. Kalijah Kancey, really good pass rusher from that interior. He's going to be an excellent fit on their unit. And then let's move on to Seattle. And I think an underrated need for the Seahawks is cornerback here. There's a lot of picks that they can go with, though. Wide receiver, I could see him going with Jackson Smith-Njigba. I'm just not going to do it, though. Like I said, cornerback, I think, is a need for Seattle. Obviously, they have Tariq Woolen. I'm a Seahawks fan, so I know that Tariq Woolen had an excellent year, one of the Defensive Rookie of the Year candidates. But other than that, they have Mike Jackson, Kobe Bryant, who's more of a slot guy and didn't play the best. Let's go with Cam Smith. Cam Smith could potentially play in the slot. He could potentially be an outside corner. A little bit undersized dude, but that's just fine for me. Cam Smith, I think, is going to be an excellent player in the NFL. Seattle, I think, is just fine with going smaller cornerbacks. Pete Carroll obviously likes those bigger dudes, but in the past, they've gone with a little bit smaller types. So I think that Seattle is going to have a good fit here for him, and I think that they'll be just fine with Cam Smith and a good fit in general there. And then moving on to the Chargers with this pick number 21. And this is where I'm going to go with Bijan Robinson, believe it or not, for LA. Obviously, the Austin Eckler situation is interesting. Is he going to stay? Is he not? Honestly, even if Austin Eckler stays, Bijan Robinson I still think would be a good pick here for the Chargers. He's the best player in the draft. Not only is he in one of the best running back prospects that we've seen since Saquon Barkley, he is like I mentioned, might be the best player in this draft. Excluding positional value, he's a very good receiving threat here. And if Austin Eckler, even if he comes back for a year, that's fine. You get a dynamic duo in Bijan and Eckler. And then when you can let go of Eckler next season, it just fits in perfectly for me. Bijan Robinson fits perfectly. Get Justin Herbert a weapon here for LA. And I think it's going to be a great fit for the Chargers. Then moving on to the Baltimore Ravens. And this is where Jackson Smith and the Jigba comes off the board. The Ravens obviously need some wide receiver help. This is pretty self-explanatory. Go with the best receiver on the board. Jackson Smith and the Jigba out of Ohio State is going to go to Baltimore. And then moving on to number 23, Minnesota Vikings. Could be some interesting positions here. Vikings need some cornerbacks. They need some edge help, interior defensive line. And then there's a player named Myles Murphy. If you haven't heard of him, still left on the board. I'm a little bit lower on Myles Murphy, but with him being at 23 here, you got to go with him here. He's obviously a little bit more. He had a rough season this year, but I think he'll be just fine on the next level. I think that Vikings might not be the best fit for him. Not a very good defense. Probably could be a little bit more risky of him, maybe not working out. But I think that, you got to go with him. I think if you're Minnesota, the pass rush was the better part of that unit last year, but it is getting older. And, there's not a lot of good cornerbacks, not a lot of good interior defensive linemen here that I think that they would go with. I'm going to go with Myles Murphy. Maybe Mozzie Smith with this pick, but I do think Myles Murphy is the better player for them. And then let's move on to number 24. We got the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jaguars could go with a good amount of positions here. Could go with tight end. Could go with receiver, cornerback. Not really any cornerbacks here. Maybe Michael Mayer, but I'm not going to go with him. I'm going to go with Zay Flowers, wherever they have him. There he is at number 33. Zay Flowers, I think, is a great player for the Jacksonville Jaguars here. The receiver group definitely could use some upgrades for Trevor Lawrence, and I think that Zay Flowers out of Boston College, will be a great deep threat for them, and he's going to be a good player. So I'm going to go with him. And then going to number 25, and here's the Giants. So Giants pretty happy that the Jaguars didn't pick Michael Mayer, because I'm going to go with him with the Giants pick. Believe it or not, I think it's just a great fit for New York here with this pick. If you look at Michael Mayer, really freaking good tight end. The Giants need a tight end. I think that they did a good job filling out the receiver position, which was a big question entering free agency. I think that they need a tight end. And with Michael Mayer on the board, you cannot pass up on him. He's arguably even better than Dalton Kincaid, but I do think he comes in at number 25. And then 26, we have the Dallas Cowboys, and that's going to be Mozzie Smith off the board. Maybe a little bit crazy pick here for some people. Down at 41. I could see the Cowboys going with maybe Jordan Addison, but the Cowboys need interior defensive line help the most out of any position that they have. Mozzie Smith, underrated at 40, the 41 overall player here. Out of Michigan, had a freaking good year for them, and going to be a mauler inside. That's a really good pick there, I think, for the Dallas Cowboys. May have a few people turned off, few Cowboys fans turned off, but I do think it's a great pick for them. And then moving on to number 27, we have the Buffalo Bills. And the Bills, it's just straight up easy for me. I think that they need offensive line help. I think that they need tackle help. And I think that's where you go with DeJuan Jones. You see Broderick Jones on the board. I honestly don't think that he is the better prospect over DeJuan Jones. PFN is very high on him. I guess I'm not as high on Broderick Jones, but I do think that DeJuan Jones is the better player here out of Ohio State. Went alongside, slipping my mind, Paris Johnson Jr. Bills, They really didn't address the offensive tackle position in free agency, and I think that they do need to in this draft. And it's a deeper tackle class, so I do think that that's a good pick for them at number 27. Then number 28, we have the Bengals. And the Bengals, pretty obvious, they are going to go with an offensive lineman here. I could see them go with Broderick Jones, but I honestly do think that they need to guard more with this pick. I mean, I think their tackles are good enough at least. And where do they have Osiris Torrance all the way down here at 49? So we almost got to the 50 range of prospects in the first round. That's how you know I'm not just picking the top players here, but Osiris Torrance, the Bengals, they like I said, they're going to need a offensive guard help. They picked that guy in the 4th round last season. He started for them. He was serviceable, but not good. And I think that Osiris Torrance is definitely an upgrade there. He's a freaking great player for out of Florida, and I think he'll fit in perfectly for Cincy. And then we got number 29, the final 3 picks in this draft. We have the New Orleans Saints after trading with the Denver Broncos for this pick. A lot of players that they could go with here, but I'm going to go with B.J. Ojulari out of LSU, the edge player. Right there. Get him off the board. Really underrated prospect there, I think, from a lot of people that I've seen. And the Saints, their edge players are getting up there in age. They need to, obviously, Cam is getting up there in age, so they need to get a edge player. And I think that go with BJ Ojulari, develop behind him, and he can be a very good player for them in the future. And then moving on to number 30, we have the Philadelphia Eagles. And this is where I think that Brian Branch comes off the board at 17. Branch out of Alabama. The Eagles, I could see them going with an offensive lineman here with this pick. Think towards the future a bit, but they need safety help. And Brian Branch is a freaking good player. They're at number 30. Lucky for him to be there for Philly. Fortunately, no other people no the teams needed safety, so it lines up perfectly for Philadelphia. They're going to get that pick. And then number 31 to round out the draft, and this is where Broderick Jones out of Georgia going to come off the clock. It's just obvious the Chiefs need offensive line help, and that's just such a simple pick there for them. So just a little bit of a rundown. You guys can check out the board here. Sorry, I just had to do something real quick, but yeah. There you go. That's the full board. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments section below. And anyway, peace.